So in today's session, we'll go through these cash management topics. Okay, first we'll see bank statement reconciliation, then manual reconciliation, how we perform automatic reconciliation, how to create external cash transaction, say bank charges, that could be manual process or automatic generation based on the bank statement. Okay, we'll see these topics. So the first point is, if you want to start with the cash management, first we have to assign the role to have access to cash management related functionalities. That could be manual reconciliation or automatic or any bank statement creation or any task. We have to assign on role to the user. Then the user will have a access to the relevant functionality. Setup part, anyway, we know we can perform always from FSM. When we talk about transaction part, that we have to manage with the roles. Fine. We'll just go to security console and we'll assign the required role to the user. Go to security console. Users. Our username is Google. Just click on the login. Edit. Add role. To have access to cash management functionality, you have to assign the role called as cash manager. Role name is cash manager. Assign. So for this role, we don't need to provide any data access. But just we have to assign. We know very well the cash management is not mapped at any BU level, right? So that is the reason we don't need to do any mapping. Done. So better we'll go with a browser called Mozilla. Switch to Mozilla browser. Fine, done. So we'll just go and see whether the role related privileges are reflecting for this user access or not. So when you go to navigator, so because of that role, yes, it's reflecting. Under cash management, system should display this task, bank statements and reconciliation. It's reflecting because of the cash manager role. Fine. Now in EBS, we create bank transaction codes when the bank transaction codes are mandatory. If you are going to perform the auto reconciliation, the bank transaction codes are mandatory. But here, even if you want to create the bank statement, it could be manual reconciliation. To create the bank statement itself, the bank transaction codes are mandatory. Okay. First, we'll go and create the bank transaction codes, and then we'll see the rest of process. Okay. So very primary task in EBS case. If you want to implement cash management application, we have to go to that system controls. Within the system controls, we have to select our legal entity, the bank transaction, that what the very oldest date you have to specify, and other controls also you have to set. Here no relevant setup. Okay, if you want to start working on the cash management, just assign the role called as cash manager to user and just create bank transaction codes that will help you to create the bank statements and do reconciliation part also. We'll see that. So first we'll go and create bank transaction codes. Okay, when you talk about bank transaction codes, the codes for your payments which you receive, which you make, which will process to our supplier, those may be for those may be just which we receive from the customers, receipts. Okay, so for which transactions you require different transaction codes, those you can go and create it. Okay, so to create the bank transaction codes, navigate to project, or from FSM search page also we can create. Go to task list, say search. Search for the task called as bank statement transaction codes. Okay, manage bank statement transaction codes. There is slight difference if you compare the bank transaction codes with EBS. We'll see how it is different. Just click on create. I'll give the transaction code. Transaction code, say I'll give 666, and I'll write the description as a payment. Transaction type, I'll say check or whatever. These are the different types which you can choose depending on what purpose we are going to use check. Now if I specify payment and check, I can use this transaction code for the payment which we are processing as well as which we are receiving. The same transaction code we can use for the payments as well as receipts. In case of EBS, when you create the bank transaction code, you have to select that is AP payment or AR receipt. But here that is not required, like that control, that sort of control you don't need to set. It's not mandatory. Simply you can create like this payment check. Okay, if what are the payments you are dealing through check method, those may be inflow or outflow, all you can manage with this transaction code. Just say save and close. This is how you can create n number of transaction codes. You can see here, since this is a Vision instance, you can find many transaction codes which are predefined by Oracle as a part of Vision definition. The rest all are created by the guys who are practicing on this instance. Just now we created one transaction code called as 666. Description is payment. Transaction type is check payment. That can be for inflow or outflow of the payments. Done. Okay, we created. So when we talk about these payments and receipts, we know very well the payment information. Once you process the payment in AP, automatically that information flows into cash management. When I talk about receipts, so we have to run the remittance process in receivables, then only data will come. Okay, as of now we have a payments data and the payables. We'll go and see the payments data is getting reflected in the cash management or not. First we'll see, after that we'll go and create the bank statement and we'll work on it. So under cash management we have a task called as bank statements and reconciliations. Just click on this task. Fine. Now go to task list. We are going to just verify. We are going to verify the payables payments data is available in cash management respective functions. So what we'll do is, we are not going to do any reconciliation, but just to go and see the information, you can select this task called as manual reconciliation. Just select manual reconciliation. From the manual reconciliation page, you will be able to find out the transactions which are flowing from payables or receivables. Select bank account. Our bank account name is Google corporate account, then click on search. It is showing system transactions, as transactions which are available, which are generated within the system. Okay, again, those transactions are source is payables. From payables, the data is flowing. If you have a receipts in the receivable application, we know like we run the remittance process. So those receipts also you could find here in this environment, because already we done with the receivables, and this is again new instance which we configure for fixed assets configuration and all. So we don't have any setups and no data from receivables. So that is the reason we are not performing the remittance. So the same way, like you cannot see that relevant data. So payments data we have from payables, that is flowing to this manual reconciliation screen. And here you can find out bank statement lines. Okay. So in the same window, same screen, you will be able to see system transactions as well as bank statement lines. Here we have option when you are searching what we want to see related to this bank account, bank statement lines and the system transactions. You want to see only bank statement lines. Select and search. We didn't enter any bank statement lines, right? So select bank statement lines, click on search. It's not reflecting. Again, you can take the same navigation. Select bank statement lines. Search. So no bank statement lines we have. Okay. But system transactions we have, just now we have seen. If you select system transactions, it will display those transactions. Okay. So now we have to create the bank statement. To create the bank statement in the system, we don't have any the real statement with us. What we'll do is we can take this information only for reference to create the bank statement. I'm just making a copy of this. Fine. So we are able to find out the transactions in cash management which are flowing from payables. Done. Okay. Now what we'll do is we'll see how to create the bank statement through manual process. So say create bank statement. It's manual. Fine. We'll see that process. Go to task list. Say create bank statement. Create bank statement. Select bank account. And whatever the statement we are going to enter in the system, the statement is belongs to which period? Maybe for the period of July 1st to so till today. Statement ID, statement number, nothing but you can enter some ID for just identification of this bank statement. And if it is a real statement, if you are going to enter the opening balances and the closing balances, you can enter here. So now you can just go to statement lines. To enter the statement lines, just click on add. So booking date, nothing but on which date the transaction, that could be payment or receipt. So just reflecting in the bank statement that you have to enter here. So no issues, we can go with the today's date. And reconciliation reference. So primarily in EVS case, we use, if it is a check payment and all, we use the check number for criteria for reconciliation purpose. The same like reconciliation reference means you can take the document number for reconciliation reference. Here we have that statement, right? These are the check numbers 1003, 1003, and transaction code. See, transaction code is mandatory when you enter the bank statement lines. In case of EBS, it's not at all mandatory, optional. So here what we created, that is 666, right? So we discussed the same transaction code you can use for payment or receipt. But how system will understand whether that is a payment or receipt based on flow indicator. So flow indicator. When you talk about the flow indicator, we are just making the payment. That means that is debited to us. Okay, that would be debited to us. How much you are paying? Here we have 1 lakh. Okay, it's yes, 1 lakh we have, like 10 lakh.
Isn't it credit?
Sorry?
Isn't it credited?
Debited,
We
right?
paid, right?
Who receives for them credit? I am sending the payment to you means your account will be credited or debited. Your account will be credited, my account would be debited.
Yeah, that's correct. Yes.
Yeah, the same logic. Fine. So just enter this amount. So just we are entering the bank statement. Okay, since we don't have real statement, we are taking the reference from the system only. So this is the check number and enter the amount. Okay, 10 lakhs dollars. Okay, now say create another. So we have 3 lines, 3 payments. We'll enter 3 payments into this bank statement creation. Okay, just says create another. You may just go with the same date and reconciliation reference 1002. Transaction code, check payment, and flow indicator. We are making the payment, so debit will be debited in our account. How much? 5 lakhs. So create another date as per bank statement, the transaction date. Reconciliation reference, check number. As per bank statement, the check number is 1001. Transaction code check. It's inflow or outflow. Outflow. So that means that is debit to us. Amount 4 lakhs. Now you can say okay. So we created 3 lines in the bank statement and say save and close. Done. Okay. Fine. So we created manual bank statement and we'll see how to perform the reconciliation through manual process. In case of EBS, how we do the manual reconciliation, we'll go to the bank statement line, we'll select the line, we have to click on availability. When you click on check availability, if the selected line, in selected line, whatever the check number you have, with the same number, if any transaction is available from the system, it will display this is a transaction which is matching with the selected bank statement line. That's how system will display. You can enable that and you can click on reconcile. That's how you can perform the reconciliation. That means at a time you could see only bank statement lines. That specific line you have to select and you have to search for available transaction. If you find the available similar same transaction, matching transaction, you have to select and you have to say reconcile. Here all the information you can see in the same page. We'll see how here we can do it. Go to manual reconciliation and you can go with the first option. Bank statement lines and the system transactions. Select our bank account. Say search. Now see, this data, these lines are coming from payables. From payable application, this data is flowing. This information is coming from bank statement. The same bank account. From payables, this payments data is available. From bank statement, these are the transaction data is available. Now if you want to do the reconciliation, it's very simple. You have to select, say for example, I want to do the manual reconciliation. As per my bank statement, there is one payment, the reference number 1001. If the similar transaction is available in the system, select it. Okay, we selected both and simply click on reconcile. This is how you can perform the manual reconciliation. Okay, this is how you can perform the manual reconciliation. Then reconcile. The lines from system and bank statements are reconciled. If you want to see the reconciled lines, see here we are under unreconciled. With this bank account, that system transactions and bank statement lines which are not yet reconciled, only those you can see. But if you want to see reconciled, you have to go to reconcile section, select your bank account again, click on search. Here you could see the reconciled lines as a group. Okay, group 1. Statement, this is a statement record. This is a payables payment. Okay. So this is how just system will allow us to perform the manual reconciliation. Now say we want to reconcile automatically. In case of EBS, what we do when we have a bank statement and do system transactions. So to perform the auto reconciliation, as a mandatory, we have to assign the transaction codes. Then you can go and run the auto reconciliation program. That's all. That's how system will verify as per the parameter what you give in the bank account or a specific statement. Then it will it will do the reconciliation automatically, how we did just now through manual process. It will look at the reference number and it will perform the reconciliation. But in Fusion, if you want to do the auto reconciliation, we have to perform some additional setups. We have to define the rules and those we have to map with the bank account. In case of EBS, not required. Just assign transaction codes and run auto reconciliation process. That's all. But in the Fusion, we have to perform some additional setups. Those setups again applicable for which bank account we have to specify. Based on those rules only, system will perform the reconciliation automatically. Okay, I will go and see what setups we have to perform if you want to do the auto reconciliation for the system and transaction system data and bank statement data. Okay, so first we have to go and create the so matching rules. Means based on what criteria system will consider when it's going to perform the auto reconciliation for the data which is available from system, which is available from bank statement. Okay, so we'll just take that point, auto reconciliation. If you want to perform the auto reconciliation, So basically we have to complete the setups. So we have to define the matching rules. The matching rules are related to bank statements. So simply call it as uh, create bank statement reconciliation matching rules. Okay. Okay, create bank statement reconciliation matching rules. So you may have a different rules. To group all the rules, you can create the rule set also. So create, we'll see how to create and what is the use of this rule set, we can understand. So create bank statement reconciliation rule set. Simple. We are creating matching rule, and by grouping one or multiple rules, matching rules, will create the rule set. After that, this definition we have to assign to bank account. Okay, this rule set is applicable for which bank account? Okay, say assign rule set to bank account. So that means we are defining rules which are applicable for specific bank account, so that when system is going to perform the auto reconciliation for the bank's account related statements, it will just look at the rule. As per rule, it will do the matching and it will perform the auto reconciliation. After completing these setups, we can go on to perform the auto reconciliation. Perform auto reconciliation. We'll see that. First, we'll go and create the matching rules. Okay. So bank statement reconciliation matching rules. Go to search window, or else from the project you can perform this setup. Search for task called as bank statement reconciliation matching rules. Fine. So create and give the name as, say, for AP payments you can have one criteria, one rule, and receivables payments you can have other criteria, or else for both you can have only one rule, matching rule. And system is going to match and reconcile the transactions between these applications AP and AR and bank statement, what criteria it has to follow, that we are going to define here. We'll see that. So Google matching rule, or else you may write the name as Google AP matching rule or AR matching rule, or you can say Google AP and AR matching rule for both if you are going to use the same. So, fine. So this matching rule you want to use for which is source transactions, say payables and receivables. And when we are going to do the matching, how the matching should happen? One to one. The transactions, one transaction with another transaction of system transaction, the bank statement, or else how you want to perform one to many or many to one, many to many. It's all about the transactions which are available in the system, which are available in the bank statement. And here is the matching criteria. By default, the criteria is amount. When system is going to perform the reconciliation between the system data and the bank statement data, primarily it will look at the amount, whether amount is matching or not. Yes, if amount is matching, what are the other parameters system will take into consideration. Since we defined reference, we can just enable the reconciliation reference. That means here reconciliation reference as per our transaction is check number. If check number is matching, if amount is matching, then it will look at check numbers. If check numbers are matching, you will get reconcile. You can go with some additional criteria also. Maybe date. Date also should be same in the bank statement as well as system, transaction types and all. Normally, as a primary criteria, the amount That is the reason they're given as default. You cannot change it. And reconciliation reference has additional criteria. This you can specify, then say save and close. This is how you may create a number of rule. We created now, we selected payables and receivables. Else you can create for payables one rule, receivables another rule. This is how we have to create the one or multiple rules. Even if you create one rule, that has to be taken into rule set. Here you can search for rule sets. Yeah, rule sets. Bank statement reconciliation rule sets. We have to group those rules into this rule set. So create, say Google rule set. Description is optional, and you can save. Click on create. So matching rule. We are just going to list out the matching rules what you created. Google matching rule, and say okay. In the same way, if you are going to have a multiple matching rules, maybe one for payables, one for receivables, so all you can list out here. Since we have only one for payables and receivables, the same we are including in the rule set. We should create the rule set. Even if you have only one rule. Done. Now we have to assign. We have to assign this to bank account. So when you perform the auto reconciliation, so based on which criteria reconciliation should be conducted, that system will take that information from bank account only. Bank account level, what are the rules that is assigned within that rule set? What are the rules are we specified? Okay, as per that rule, system will perform the auto reconciliation. So go to bank account. Bank accounts. Our bank account name is Google. Just click on edit. So go to controls. Go to controls tab. So here we have field called as automatic reconciliation rule set. Okay, you can select Google rule set. Select, just we are assigning, then say save and close. Done. Now we'll go and submit auto reconciliation. Go to navigator. Select task called as bank statements under reconciliation. Just go to task list. Here we have a task called as submit auto reconciliation. Okay, just click on submit auto reconciliation. And we want to submit this auto reconciliation for which bank account? The bank account level, we have a rules which we assign, right? So bank account name is Google, right? Search for the bank account. Google corporate account. For this bank account, you don't have multiple statement to specify the specific statement. If you want to give particular statement, you can give it. We have only one, right? At the time of bank account creation, we given the statement number, nothing but statement ID. From statement, okay, and two statement dates, you may specify. So statements which we created today only, right? But let it be as it is, no issues. Now you can submit. Now system will go to this bank account level. What are the rules that we have? By just taking that criteria, it will just try to perform the reconciliation between the two set of transactions. One set of the transaction from system, other set of transaction from bank statement with this ID, and it will perform the reconciliation if the criteria is matching. Okay, the check numbers are going to be same with the same amount. It will perform the reconciliation. We submitted. It will trigger the job. If you want to see, you can go to ESS job page and you can see that. You can guess the job is completed. Now you can go to bank statements. Okay. You can go to manual reconciliation, not to perform the manual reconciliation, just to see the data, or else you can directly go with the manage bank statements. Now we want to see that bank statement is reconciled or not. That you can see from here or with this task. Fine, we'll go with the manage bank statements. Now the two payments which are available from payables and bank statement should be reconciled. So this is our bank account. This bank account has bank statement, so that is the reason only this system is showing. So this is a statement number. You can click on this statement number, go to statement lines. You can find out 3 lines are reconciled. One line we reconcile, right? Manually we reconcile. Remaining 2 lines also reconciled by system because of this auto reconciliation which we submitted with the help of rules. So this is a process we have to follow if you want to perform the auto reconciliation for the bank statement which is available in the system, that you may enter through manual process or you may get into the application through some other process. Finally, if the bank statement and the system transaction data is available, you have to define the matching rules. With the help of matching rules, you will be able to perform the auto reconciliation. I compare with EBS, their code will create and will submit. Here not only code, just we created matching rule set assigned to bank account. These are the additional setups when you compare with EBS. Fine.
Lakshman, typically it will be like multiple bank accounts for the multiple organizations, right?
Yes. Same we have to replicate.
For the reconciliation, we have to do each bank account one at a time, right? Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes. We have to submit job, right? Submit.
Other day, there was a question from my business.
Okay.
If a transaction doesn't go into reconciliation, how do we handle them? That was the question. So do we get a miscellaneous transaction, or how do we do that?
See that if transaction is not getting reconciled, the reason would be from one side, right? It could be system side. Say your bank statement has 10 payments. Okay, bank statement is reflected with 10 payments, but in your system you might be having only 9 payments. That means what you have to do, you have to identify which bank statement line is not reconciled. Okay, so and so line with how much amount, what is the check number. The same do we have in the system or not, we have to verify. We don't have system. That means the accountant did not enter, but they just they just process the check. Somehow it is missing in the system. So then we'll be just entering in the system side and will be conducting the reconciliation. It may not be auto reconciliation. For the specific transaction, you may perform manual reconciliation. Or else you have a, please.
There might be many reasons. There might be bank charges, there might be penalties.
Based on the reason, we have to just take action on that. Based on the reason, say I have 10 payments in the system, but my bank statement is reflecting only 5. Maybe I have 10 payments over the period, but the 10 payments are not submitted to the bank by supplier to encash it. So those I cannot try to reconcile, right? I given the payment, but not yet submitted to bank. Whatever is submitted to bank by supplier, those only will be reflecting. For those reasons, we should understand. Okay, what are the reasons? Definitely, we'll look into that. This payment I issued 1 month back, but it is not reflecting in the bank account. So you may call to your supplier saying that on so and so date I issued the check. We don't see you submitted for just clearing, and you have any issues, or we'll talk to them, and based on that realization, we'll plan for the action. Okay.
Okay, to handle those situations, will this is my understanding. Correct me if I'm
Yes,
wrong.
yes.
We'll create
That like that.
different transaction codes and we'll make them reconcile. Right?
Correct.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
See, the
thanks.
codes may be same because I'm using the code for payment. Just now I used 666, right? The code may be same. If the equivalent transaction is not available from other side, okay, I cannot reconcile. So that we have to find out the reasons. Finally, we have to get the transaction to system. If bank statement means we have to wait for the next statement and all, definitely, because the statement which you received it's not reflecting means it is not through with the bank process. So those anyway you will keep as unreconciled till you get the bank statement with the information as a just that is cleared. Then only will be performing the reconciliation. It's all about we have to find out the reasons. Based on the reasons, just will take the further action, and just maybe system side issue mistake, or they forgot to enter the transaction payables or receivables as a receipt or payables payment, that we have to manage. And say for example you have a scenario, you have a some you received bank statement and you have some bank charges in the bank statement, so that you by seeing that bank statement charges you may enter the transaction in the system as a bank charges, or else you may have a plan of automatically creating the bank charges from the bank statement to system. Those and all will be planning how to go about them.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
fine, fine. So now we'll see the same, the bank charges, external transactions and all. So we just verified how to perform manual reconciliation. For auto reconciliation, yes, these are the setups and we submitted auto reconciliation. Now we'll see how to create the external cash transaction. Nothing but these are the bank charges. Normally bank charges will be entering in the system as external cash transaction. Okay, we'll take the simple case. Say I want to enter the bank charges into system that you can create as a external cash transaction. We'll see how to create it. Okay, so to create the bank charges in the system as external transaction, you can just go to task list. So here we have a section called as external cash transaction. Say create transaction. So before that, say you have a line in the bank statement which talks about bank charges. 1 second. That we have to get in,
Vishwanath,
how to get as a part of statement. Yeah, please.
so this matching rule sets are not in EBS.
We don't have, right?
Okay. And if there is bank charges, so do we have to create in EBS? We can create the transaction code.
Yes, exactly. Here also same.
And how that transaction code, so bank will also send the same transaction code.
See, simple. It's not like we create and bank will send. Whatever bank will use, those will create in our system. That is the reality,
Okay.
right? So we have to follow the codes what bank is using. Okay, bank is using some different 20 different codes based on the nature of transaction. You are depositing or withdrawing, and you are transferring or check deposit or etc. EFT. Some different transactions we do, right? So if you simple example, when you withdraw money from the ATM, in the backside you can see that transaction codes, right? Similar way, when you get the bank statement, within the statement, based on the classification of the transaction which you did against your account, they'll provide the codes. So when you are getting that statement into system for reconciliation purpose, the same codes we have to enter against that bank account. Normally we enter, and those will be using in the specific account process. Fine. So say we have a one line in the bank's statement which is related to bank charges. That let's include in the bank statement creation. Go to manage bank accounts, bank statements. So this is the statement. Already within the statement, all the lines are reconciled. Okay, no issues. We'll add one more line as a charges. Click on edit. So we know how to create the transaction code. We create transaction code as a 666 as a payment. In the same way, if you want to create transaction code for bank charges, you can create as a fee. Just click on add. Fine. If you are going to use for auto reconciliation, you can use some reference number, otherwise leave it. Transaction code. Transaction code. So we created 666. This is for check payment, but now it's related to bank charges. You can take other code called as fee, or else you can create your own code. Simple process, right? There you'll just give the code, and you can write the description as a bank charges. Okay, so the bank charges, just you can select it, that you'll be able to select from here. Now flow indicator. Say we are just paying the bank charges. So in that case, the flow indicator should be debit, and how much we are paying, say $10, and say okay. Now we have this as a part of statement. Now if I go to this reconcile section, manual reconciliation, just to see those transactions, if I select bank account, you click on search, you could see the bank statement line is representing here. Okay, bank statement line system is displayed, but we don't have any transactions from system, okay, which represents this the bank charges. So this system transactions basically will flow from respective module, from payables, payment transaction, from receivable transaction. Since it's a bank statement, bank charges, so we'll be entering directly into the application. So we'll see how to enter the bank charges into cash management directly, apart from bank statement charges as a line. So go to external cash transaction. Here we have a task called as create transaction. So here you can specify the bank charges are belongs to which bank account. Google, and you can specify the business unit. Okay, if you have a scenario, this bank account is used by multiple business unit, yes, that is possible, right? So you don't need to specify that bank business unit is not mandatory. How much amount? $10. Okay, you enter -10. -10 means it's a paid amount. They're already, if you give debit at the line bank statement line creation time, if you give something flow indicator as a debit, it will take as a -10. When you are creating the external transaction also, you can provide the same -10. Reference number we are not using. Transaction type, fee, and provide accounting information, cash account. Offset account should be bank charges account. Your offset account is nothing but bank charges account because this transaction related to bank charges. Say save and close. This is how we can create the bank charges through manual process, and you can go to manual reconciliation. We'll see auto reconciliation also, and you select bank account. The charges which are there as per statement and as per the system, those both will flow here. Because here source is external. Because external, it is not coming from APR here. We manually entered, so external. So now, if you want to perform the reconciliation for the bank charges for the line which are available from the system under statement lines, you can select and say reconcile. This is how manually you can enter the bank charges. But my requirement is, if I have the line in the bank statement, automatically system has to create in the system. Okay. So this we can do in EBS also, right? When you deal with the bank charges, external transaction we can generate. Here, if you want to do that, okay, how we can do it? So external cash transaction. Just now we have seen how to create through manual process. But if external transaction, nothing but say bank charges are available, the line is available as a part of bank statement. Based on that, how to create the transaction as a system transaction automatically, and how to perform the reconciliation also automatically. Our requirement, if four bank charges lines are available in the bank statement, automatically system has to create four system transactions, as well as it has to perform the reconciliation also. So in that case, how to deal with that? So we'll see first what setups we have to perform in that case. So here we have to create some like system has to create this external transaction. For that reason, we have to create transaction creation rules. Which transaction creation rules? Bank statement. Let me write create bank statement transaction creation rules. So whenever we have a bank statement line, based on that, system has to create the transaction in the system. Is that for that? And what base it has to create, we are just specifying here. Fine. So after setting up this, we have to create the transaction type mapping. So create cash transaction type mapping. Okay, this will understand at the time of definition. Finally, this we have to assign to bank account. The transaction creation rule will assign to bank account. And after completing these setups, we'll create, just testing purpose, we'll enter one transaction, enter transaction in bank statement,
That's right. Transaction creation rule in EBS.
sorry,
Transaction creation rule is in EBS.
no rule we don't have, this process we have. External cash transaction you can generate, you have to go to lookup and all these specific, that's different way we do in EBS, but the concept we have, that's what I'm saying. Rule we don't have, rule creation and all. Okay, but you can create the external cash transactions, that process we have. Okay, but the setup point of view, the configuration point of view, that is totally different again. These rules and all we don't have in EBS case. Fine. So we'll just after completing the setups, what we'll do is we'll go and enter one transaction, bank charges in bank statement. Transaction in bank statement means bank charges. And we will just we'll submit the process which will create the same bank statement, bank charges in system, and it will perform the reconciliation. What system will do? System creates uh, the same line. System will create system transaction, and it will perform the auto reconciliation also. We'll create it. Because of these setups, the same transaction will turn as a system transaction, and this system transaction with the bank statement transaction, it will get reconciled automatically. Okay, we'll see that. First we'll go and create the transaction creation rules. Okay, go to project, or from search window you can find out this task. Okay, manage bank statement transaction creation rules. So create. So this rule for what? This rule for Google bank charges. In case of bank charges are available in bank statement, to convert the same line as a system line and to perform the reconciliation, we are creating this rule. Okay, select legal entity. For which legal entity of the bank accounts we are going to use this rule?
Lakshman, is the same thing in R12 also, EBS also same steps?
No, EBS, no, we don't do all this rule.
Now this one.
That's totally different. We'll create some lookup values and the mapping. That's a different story. Okay, here it's very simple. Fine. So here you can select statement line identification criteria. So fee and state transaction code. So we are giving 661. Remember this, because whatever the manual line will be entering in the bank statement, you have to enter with this transaction code only, so that this system will take as a criteria and it will create. And transaction details, you may provide the fee, and if you have multiple, for each business unit, if you want to keep separate criteria, you may select business unit, otherwise you can ignore it. In our case, we are not going to have separate, just you may select the same, no issues. Okay, and here provide cash account onto offset account, because by using this rule it will create the external cash transaction automatically. At that time, what are the accounts you provide here, the same accounts will use for accounting purpose for that external transaction. Here first account is cash account. Offset account, nothing but bank charges account.
What is this offset account purpose?
So every line should get balanced with the, every transaction should, the debits and credits should get balanced. When you create the bank charges, when you are paying, the accounting system should generate, right? Okay, this is not based on other existing transaction. You have invoice, you are making the payment, means what system will do? Invoice creation, say expense or accrual is debit and liability is credit. When you make the payment, liability debit and cash or cash clearing would get credited. But here, when cash is going to be credited, with what reason you are making the payment, that has to be addressed. This is bank charges. So the bank charges, offset account will be debited, cash account will be credited for this bank charges. Fine. Just search for bank charges account. What happened to this?
Oh,
1 second. Yeah, please.
purpose of this offset account.
Sorry.
Purpose of offset account.
The same I explained, right? When you create any transaction, system should get balance that transaction accounting with the debit and credit. When you make the payment, why you are making the payment? Because of bank charges. So this account goes to debit, cash goes to credit. Okay, done. Say save and close. Okay, we created rule. Now we have to create the transaction type mapping. Cash transaction type mapping. Directly you can just search with this transaction type mapping. So task name is manage cash transaction type mapping. Click on create. So what you are paying or you are receiving? It's a disbursement, means payment. Type is fee. Method, how you are going to pay, through check or electronic. You can select any one of the option. Say electronic. Say save and close. The mapping method already exists. Okay, the method is already used in this list. What we'll do is, with the same method, which is already the type is exist, we'll select it. Within that we'll be selecting the transaction type. We need type as disbursement, transaction type as a fee, method as electronic. So with electronic already some type is already defined. That is the reason it is saying it exists. What we'll do is we'll find it first. Here search for method called as electronic. This is one. Click on edit. So electronic fund transfer, but we are using the type as a fee. That you overwrite and save it. This is how we need it. Done. Now what we have to do is this, we have to assign to bank account. Go to bank account. Manage bank accounts. Bank account is Google. And the same tab controls. And here we have a section called as bank statement transaction creation rule. Just click on add. Rule what we created, Google bank charges, right? So here created rule. This rule we are selecting. And say save and close. Done. We done completed setups. Now what system has to do, if any bank statement line is available with the transaction code called as transaction type called as fee and code is 661, it has to generate system transaction automatically and it has to submit for auto reconciliation. Now just we'll go and enter one bank statement line. Okay, one line into bank statement. Go to our bank statement. Sorry. bank statements and reconciliation. So, manage bank statements. Expand this account. Just click on the statement ID. So what you could do is enable edit from here itself. Select statement ID, click on edit. So if you click on edit here, it will enable add option. So create one bank charges line in the statement. So reference number and all is and all not required. Transaction code. This is what system will use as a criteria. The same transaction code, it will create the system transaction also. In the setup part, what code we used, what transaction code we use, 661. Because with this transaction code only rule we define. Flow indicator, debit, how much, say $15. Say okay. Done. Okay. In our bank statement, we have one transaction which is related to bank charges. Now the requirement is, normally what we did in the manual process, the similar transaction we created from system and both we selected for reconciliation. Reconcile. Now we don't want to create that bank statement line into system through manual process. It has to be created by system automatically. It has to perform the reconciliation also with the help of the rules which we created and assigned to bank account. So go to this section. Here we have external cash transaction, and you can just, not here, is manage and find, not there. Here we'll find generate cash transactions. Under bank statements, we can find task called as generate cash transactions. Submit this process. Statement is not mandatory since we have only one. So now what this process will do? So this is related to bank statement transactions, create external cash transaction. The system will just verify at bank account level which rule is assigned. Transaction creation rule. It will identify within that which transaction type is available. Type and code. Type is fee, code is 661. With that criteria, within this bank statement, if any transaction is available, the same it will replicate as a system transaction and it will perform auto reconciliation. That's it. This is what system will do. Just click on submit, the same we can find also. So then we submit it. It will trigger the process and it will generate. One system will create that you can find from manage transactions. Go to manage transactions. Which transaction system created based on bank statement line that you can find from here. One we created manually, right? Okay, one we created manually. Now system created line we want to see. We created one and that we use it for reconciliation also. Now we given $15. See, the $15 system created, external transaction system created, and it is reconciled also. If you go to bank account, bank statements, there also you can see the same. Go to manage bank accounts. So whatever we added in the bank statement, $15 has got reconciled because system is replicated same with external transaction, it performed reconciliation. The grouping, if you want to see, you can go with this task, annual reconciliation, select reconciled, select your bank account, search. Two transactions. This is statement. This is from statement. This is external. This is created by system only. Based on the statement transaction, this is created by system. It's reconciled. So this is how you can just perform the. You can generate the external transaction automatically based on the bank statement lines also. For that, these rules we have to create. So this sort of job you don't in case of EBS. In EBS case, we don't create any rules and assigning. So straight away direct criteria like where it will verify the reference numbers and all. So we don't apply these to bank account and no rules definition. But here, this is how we have to simplify the process of reconciliations or transaction creations. Okay.
Lakshman, can we create only one transaction creation rule and only attach one transaction creation rule to bank account?
One, what purpose? Transaction creation rule. Okay, you are talking about external. The same we did just now. We created only one transaction creation rule. Right? Only we created. When you are creating what we did, within the one we can select only one transaction type and one code only. We did the same. We created
We attach more than one.
Sorry? We
attach more than one.
We are not attaching. Okay, can you attach or not? Yes, that option we have. We added only one. Still, we have an option to attach over there. If you look at this bank account level, yes, we have option to attach multiple. You can do that. You can do that. So if you create more than one rule, accordingly you have to create the cash transaction type mapping also, or else rules are many, the type you are going to use the same. Type is fee. Code also you are going to use same, but rules may be multiple. In that case, one would be enough, or else rule is going to be for a different type of transactions and to different codes. In that case, those many transaction type mappings also you have to perform. Only you can assign the rules to system, rules to bank account. There you can assign multiple. You can see that. Normally we'll use many, but here just we are testing. That is the reason just we created only one. Here the selection is available below. You can click on add and you can add one more. Here you can click on add. Here add one more rule. Same way multiple. You can do that. Okay, so that's all about bank statement creation, manual auto reconciliation, external cash transactions. Okay, so in tomorrow's session we'll start with the O2C configuration. We'll do the required configuration from order management. So to start with order management, sales order process, certain setups we have to complete from this other modules which are integrated with the OEM. Those also will complete primarily pricing module and other additional configuration available to promise ATP rules and other rules also we have to define. We'll discuss and do it in the tomorrow session.